Good evening, everyone. This is second session of Ignite Season 2. Today, I'm very excited because we have a star-studded panel. More importantly, we have all the big four conglomerates of India on same panel. I'm not sure if I've seen all four companies on the same panel previously. We have Reliance, Mahindra, ABG, and Tata Sons TAS. And I would want to take about a minute or so to go through each one of them, each one of their profiles, just to understand in terms of the background they're coming from. I'll start with Vishwachetan Nadamani, who's from Aditya Birla Group. He joined ABG LP in 2010 after completing his post graduation in business management from IIM Ahmedabad. His current role as a business head for South India at Pantaloons is responsible for about 700 crore top line. He is a proud recipient of number of awards. I mean, few of them is ABRL Emerging Leader 2012. He was ABGLP Distinguished Achiever Award in 2015 and Pantaloons Distinguished Leader Award in 2020. Thank you, Vishwa, for joining us. The next in panel, we have Venkatraman Prabhu, aka Venki. Uh, he is a mechanical engineer at heart and trained with a general management degree from IIM Ahmedabad. He has a very diverse career spanning 20 years, and he has worked in a leadership capacity for many of the Fortune 500 international organizations, such as Microsoft, American Express, Barclays, ABP. And before coming live, we also got to know that he started his career with Mahindra. He also had a stint with Tata Group, and another connection with Vishwa is that he's an IIM Ahmedabad alumni. So he's one guy who has some or the other connection with the other panelists here. Let me go to Amit
For the
Chawla,
introduction.
Deputy General Manager, Bank Mahindra Rise. Sorry, Venki, you were saying something?
No, no, I just thanked you for for that wonderful introduction. I haven't been introduced so
Yeah.
nicely anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Amit Chawla, Deputy General Manager, Group Strategy Office at Mahindra Rise. He's an alumnus of IFT Delhi. He joined Mahindra Group in 2011 in the group management cadre and was responsible for business development of Mahindra's automotive portfolio in Europe. His one of the key assignments were the launch of SUV XUV 500 in Italy and his second and ongoing stint with the digital transformation team in the group strategy office, where he's working with multiple businesses in the group, leveraging emerging technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. So maybe when we have questions on those topics, I'll direct them to Amit. And then the last panelist that we have is Jishnu Surendran. He is a business development manager, Intellect Automation, Tata Consulting Services. He is an alumnus from IIM Bangalore. He joined the TAS batch of 2014. As part of the first stints at TAS, he worked at Tata Communications, Tata Sky, Tata Sons, and Tata Trusts. Post the first year, he joined Tata Sky as the manager in certain department where he handled relationships with the portfolio of broadcasters, including Sony, Z, and Star. In 2017, he moved on to Tata Consulting Services as a business development manager for Intellect Automation Services. He's currently based out of Amsterdam and focusing on Netherlands, Belgium, France, and the other markets. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with you, Venki, in terms of because the audience that we have today are most of them are yet to join these schools, right? They may not have a background of what are the main characteristics of big diversified Indian groups. What is the legacy? What growth have they been going into? Because I mean, all companies that are here today have been there in India for decades, and all of them have global businesses now with rooted in India. So if you can just take them through defining those characteristics of Indian diversified business groups and what has been the history overall.
Well, okay. So one thing is that India traditionally, right? I mean, historically, if you look at it, most of the business groups, and we are well represented here. If you look at even Mahindra and
Sorry,
Tata.
sorry, Venki,
Yeah.
Venki, we are losing you in between. I think the connection is stable now. Please, if you can start again.
All right. Yeah. Sorry for that. So basically,
Sure.
what I was trying to say is historically, it's still breaking up.
No, it's good. It's good.
Right.
Please go
Okay.
on.
Great. So historically, I think Indian industry has more recently it has developed pretty quickly. But historically, if you look at it, most of the big groups, and we are all well represented here, went through a period where I think entrepreneurship was under strict government control, and those were tough times. And despite those sort of scenarios and those situations, I think some of these bigger groups, take Mahindra, Tata, Reliance, even ABG, I think they've emerged as these multi-faceted conglomerates with multiple lines of business and multiple products and services that we offer. I think Tata, Reliance have a huge spread. I mean, Tata and Reliance both. I think it's like Tata had this concept. If I remember, it used to be, I think, right from the day starting to the day ending, whatever you could encounter a Tata product. I remember that when I was back in Tata Consultancy Services. I think similar thing for Reliance also. I mean, Reliance is also into all sorts of products and services, and it's very interesting because what happens is, I think one of the key elements of such a huge conglomerate and how it sort of needs to function. One aspect of it is agility in decision making and how it percolates down the chain and how well it can that is done. That is very important. So what is happening is, if you really look at it, I mean, this takes my mind back to this one book I had read in the past, Elephants. I think it was Why Elephants Can Dance or something like that, by Louis Gerstner. It's about the IBM turnaround story. It's very interesting because as the conglomerate grows in size, typically what suffers is communication, right? Communication across the organization, top down, bottom up, and it's very important for that's the grease between the wheels. That's the oil in the engine, really. So if you want this conglomerate and this diversified business to be chugging along, growing at the pace that it is growing, I think communication, top-down leadership communication, even communication amongst teams and having that ecosystem is absolutely crucial. It's absolutely essential. And how organizations and conglomerates manage that piece has a big say in how fast and how quickly they can grow. So that's one big element. The second aspect of that I want to sort of maybe point out very quickly is that vision is a huge part of this. I mean, every conglomerate that has succeeded today and is succeeding and continues to grow has a vision that evolves quickly. It evolves and it's large enough. It's big enough to enthuse the workforce. It is big enough to drive the workforce, and it is at the same time there is a level of belief that needs to be instilled in the organization. So I think these are more common elements across all these successful conglomerates. These are things that actually apply to all of us. Be it, and I'll let Jishnu and Ankit and Amit and Vishwachetan add to this. But I think that's the big element: the vision and how the vision is driven, communication, vision. And one other aspect is very important is that how well you take care of your workforce. So it's very important to understand that all of the successes, even though at the end of the day there might be one senior VP director standing up there in front of the cameras and saying, "Oh yes, we did this." There is a huge army behind this person, a huge army of leaders and team members who actually burn the midnight oil, burn the candle on both ends, whatever you call it, to make it happen. And that can only happen. That sort of loyalty and commitment can only come through if you actually uh, enthuse the workforce and keep them engaged. And I think I can speak for Reliance and even Tata. I was part of Tata and Mahindra. I can speak for these organizations. That is also another common thread I've found in all these conglomerates, where they are so keen on what the employee experience is and how they sort of enhance that on an ongoing basis, to ensure that they get the maximum value and maximum out of what an employee can offer, right? So that is important, I think. Those are the three big things that I think make up into what goes into a successful conglomerate at the broad level.
Thanks, Venki. I would just like to add another thing. Another thing which is more recent is that these conglomerates or federations, as we call our group, are not just limited to the legacy companies. Their portfolio now spans from very agile startups to emerging companies to market leaders. So that in such a big space, like Venki was telling us, the essence of experimentation is not lost out. So they know that companies which go on for a very long time across the same path tend to be disrupted. So now even our and this goes for all the four companies that are represented here, have now an appetite for experimentation, which offers us many more opportunities.
Sure. Anything that you want to add, Vishwa?
Yeah, I would say Venki and Amit. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vishwa. I heard Jishnu.
Thank you. So, Ankit, I feel that all the four groups represented here today have their roots in the Indian independence movement, right? So they have literally carried the Indian economy on their shoulders, right? I think till the arrival of probably Infosys in the early 2000s, I mean, these four conglomerates of, and they all started, right? Aditya Birla Group started with metals, Reliance had petrochem, Mahindra had automotive, Tata's had hospitality and automotive, steel, right? So they have been the backbone, and the growth of Indian economy actually they very very parallel to how these four conglomerates have grown, and they have been largely responsible for employing India, bringing the corporate culture to India. So from there, and I think all the things that like I said about how they've been successful. But I think that's where the root is, and of course what Amit was saying, they've taken a lot of risks all along the way, in the context of how governments have changed, the context of how the world has changed, in the context of how geopolitics has changed, and have been through the thick and thin of it and have emerged successful. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, Vishnu. Closing points.
I think so. Venki, Amit, and Vishwa summarized the points very well. I think one thing that conglomerates have in common is their commitment to the society, right? I think that's at the heart of the way we work, and also I think the commitment to employees. So it would not grow as big, and it would never have such a loyal employee base if that was not taken care of, right? So within the Tata Group, we're talking about 6 lakh plus employees spread across the different Tata Group organizations, right? And they've been the trendsetters when it comes to employee policies and welfare and things like that. So I think commitment to the society, and I think employees kind of characterizes them. And I completely agree with all the other points of being all of our organizations. I think one or the other will have a large enterprise in one of the key sectors, in all of the key sectors in India, right? Yeah. And also we are moving towards new areas, like for example, e-commerce, whether it be analytics, AI, and so on. So we have core sectors covered, and we are future forward and looking at the new ones as well. So I think that's really interesting where we are.
Yeah. I think there were very interesting thoughts, and one I pretty much like about is that how conglomerates are driving in some or the other manner and contributing to the Indian economy, whether it is through people, through money, through jobs, through multiple sectors that we operate in. In the interest of the first year students who may not know what all segments are you into, maybe the new ones and the old ones or so, and pretty much all four of you are into different segments which are maybe unique to you. So if all of you can go one by one and maybe detail it out in terms of what all categories you're in, and maybe some interesting facts to go about. And I'll start with you, Vishnu, now, and then I'll move to the others as well.
Sure. Thanks, Ankit. So the breadth of the Tata Group, I'm aware is I'm sure is pretty well known. There are 10 business verticals into which all of the Tata Group organizations fit into. Some of those would be fairly well-known brands, and everybody here would be aware of them. So we are of course in the consumer sector with brands like from Salt and so forward. But we are also, of course, in IT with TCS, with hospitality with Taj, in the of course Tata Motors, a very large player in the automotive sector, Tata Steel. Some of the other lesser known areas which might also be of interest is that we are in the capital market space with Tata Capital. We have a trade and investments division which is also very active, and we are also in aerospace and defense. Right? I mean, these are some of the areas which might not be consumer facing and therefore might not be highly known to the outside world. But just to say that there are 10 business verticals kind of spread all the way across the B2B and B2C spectrum. And I think it also kind of translates very well into the fact that for an employee, and also especially if you are from a program like a central program like TAS, it kind of gives you that opportunity to explore a wide array of sectors and opportunities, right? So for me, I found it extremely useful so far. I've been 6 years into the program. I started off with a media company, and I was there for around 3 years, and now I'm in the IT sector, serving media as well as a lot of different industries, right? And going forward, I could potentially take these learnings and explore another sector which might be of interest, right? So just to summarize on the Tata Group, 10 different business verticals, so please, I would urge all the candidates to read up, and on tata.com you'll find all the information regarding these sectors.
Thanks, Vishnu. Vishwachetan, will come to you.
Yeah, hi. So Aditya Birla Group is a $48+ billion conglomerate in the league of Fortune 500. And there are 7 major business verticals that we are in. Hindalco is into metals, aluminum and copper. That also includes Novelis in US. Then you have Ultratech Cement, which is India's #1 cement player. Then you have Birla Carbon Black, which is the world's #1 carbon black company. And then you have Grasim, which is the world leader in the sports staple fiber. You have Aditya Birla Capital, which is into the whole range of financial services from life insurance, health insurance, private equity, wealth management, and all of it. Then you have Vodafone Idea, which is of course Indian Telecom, India's #1 telecom player. And then lastly, the company where I am in, Aditya Birla Fashion Retail Limited, which has the lifestyle brands, which is Louis Philippe, Samuelson, Peter England, Alan Solly, and value fashion format, which is Pantaloons, and of course, holds a lot of international brands like Ted Baker, Hackett, and Carter. So from metals, which is the traditional industry, to services, telecom, and fashion, retail, and financial services. We are a very good mix of traditional businesses and new age businesses, B2B and B2C. And that's what a conglomerate is about. That's a group for you.
Yeah, amazing. Amit?
Hey, thank you. So I represent the Mahindra Group. This is our 75th year. Began in 1945 as a steel trading company and has diversified into a big federation, or as we would like to call it, with 100+ companies in 12 major sectors. And our traditional businesses, as you would be familiar with, automotive as well as farm. We are the largest tractor company by volume in the world. We also like to say that we drive mobility across land, air, and sea. There is an aerospace company by the name of Gips Aero in the group. There is also a a company that manufactures luxury yacht called Odyssey. So other than that, we are also the largest rural-focused NBFC in India. The company is called Mahindra Finance. Other offerings include we are in the top 3 logistics business by the company name called Mahindra Logistics. You would be familiar with Tech Mahindra, also amongst the top 5 IT players. And in addition to all these companies, where I work, what binds everything together is something called as the Group Strategy Office. We do have other corporate functions also, but a Group Strategy Office is special because it is modeled like a consulting organization which works with all of these companies in order to drive various projects. And I represent the digital transformation team, where we work on innovative technologies. This is my 10th year in the group. I joined off campus in group management cadre called the GMC program popularly. And I have had a flavor of 3 or 4 of these businesses, and it has been a very exciting journey so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you so much. Venki, over to you for Reliance Group. And I think I missed it in your introduction that Venki is head of IT strategy planning and UX design COE for Geo Platform, which is the new buzzword. So if you can also emphasize on the various aspects and the new things that are coming in.
Sure. So Reliance is it's a conglomerate that began with it had humble beginnings, started with textiles, right, and textiles, and then we diversified into petrochemicals. Interesting because the whole strategy of backward integration, that's what we call it, backward integration, wherein we take care of the entire supply chain, right? All the raw materials that we need to produce, say, textiles, we manufacture those as well, and so on and so forth, right up to exploration and production, which is a separate business where we are actually drilling for oil and gas, right? In the KG-D6 basin, even in the US for shale gas and other locations. So petrochemical has been the heart of Reliance for a long time, and a very successful business. In fact, some statistics for Reliance Industries as a whole would boggle your mind, because we are India's largest exporter. 8% of India's exports actually are made by Reliance. 5% of the duty, custom and excise duty that is garnered by the Indian government is paid by Reliance. So those numbers are actually mind-boggling in that sense, if you look at the scale of what is happening. But more recently, what's become more interesting, and all of this information is on rl.com, so I won't bore you with all the various details around that. So we have other sectors as well. Retail. More recently, in the last decade, we have had an entry into retail and telecom. Everybody's aware of the impact Jio has had, and I think the last decade has been very key because we've turned disruptive. I think the point that Amit had made, about disruption being one of the key qualities that a conglomerate should have. I think the last decade has been very interesting that way, because we have been very extremely disruptive in many of the markets that we have entered, and we've changed the game, and that's and we are now actually building on those achievements, and that foundation is very strong. So what has happened is the logical next step, obviously, was that now, since we had such great telecom capability and we had all this expertise in so many sectors across the board, obviously you can see it, right? You can see the whole cross pollination impact of it, right? You can actually do a lot of integrated products and services, and you can actually leverage the entire all these verticals. Instead of looking at them as silos, you look at them more integrated. And so then the question became, okay, how do we sort of bring this all together, right? That is the question that JPL is now trying to address. If you look at the world today, a lot of organizations are relying on either Microsoft or Google or Amazon for a lot of their cloud computing infrastructure, platform, and software as a service portfolio. They're relying a lot on these big giants, and they have set that up, right? JPL is actually now a digital services company that is going to play in that same space. That's the vision, right? So we've already had, last year and a half or so, we've put in a lot of groundwork on that. And what has happened is JPL also, more recently, we've had 10 investments, which has actually eliminated the entire debt of Reliance Group as a whole. We've become a zero debt company almost a year ahead of what we had committed to our shareholders. So that's another huge achievement. You must have read about it in the news. But I think what is really important is what's going to come. This is probably just like they say, this is a trailer before the movie. The movie is actually going to be huge because with strategic partnerships with players like Facebook, right, and a lot of other tech companies, we've also, what people have not realized maybe is that we have also acquired a lot of startups, got into partnerships with a lot of startups to enhance our digital capabilities. Now we are primed and ready to sort of leverage this and turn into India's tech giant, and that's sort of the next step that we are taking. So it's an exciting journey. We are at the beginning of it, and I could probably take up your entire session talking about it. So, but I would urge everyone to maybe go to rl.com. There's a lot of information there on our media page, and it's very exciting. All I can say is that this is a journey which is going to require a lot of leaders, a lot of thought leaders, a lot of innovators, a lot of creative individuals, and we are always on the lookout for that sort of talent. And I'm hoping that people who are tuned in, who are listening in, are if they consider themselves to be that sort of profile, to have that sort of profile where I can do something. I mean, I can really make a difference. I've got great ideas. Reliance is a place which encourages entrepreneurship, right? We call it intrapreneurship. It encourages that quite a bit. So much so that anyone who has a great idea can actually post it onto an internal platform we have called Mission Kurukshetra, and it gets looked at by the top leaders. So it doesn't, so if you have something, it gets, and interestingly, I think I'm not very sure about this, but a lot of great ideas that have been implemented in the past have actually, you can trace back the roots to Mission Kurukshetra and some of the innovative work that is done there. So it's an exciting place to be. And the last decade, everything has now, that outlook has changed. So we are now focused completely. While petrochemicals is still a big deal, it's one of the big engines that we have. But I think growth is now going to come from a different direction, and it's very exciting. It's now in the consumer space. We are looking more at B2C, B2B2C. Traditionally, Reliance was B2B, but now we are more consumer oriented, is what I feel. So I think it's exciting times ahead. So that's
nice. No, I completely agree. I think disruption is happening everywhere, and especially in these times when people are working from home on COVID. Everything has changed drastically in last 3 months itself. Really, I mean, we couldn't have imagined that the whole team is working from home. I mean, I was very apprehensive when we got to know about the lockdown. I mean, forget about the big companies. Mine is very small, right? Still, I was like, can we manage working from home? Will we be able to work out? And in last 2 to 3 months, we have been able to find ways to, let's say, gel together, work out, brainstorm, and everything. So I think, having said that, it is nice and good time, and I'm sure all four companies will be moving into those directions, which is digital transformation and disruption. One question, I'm not sure. One question has been asked, and I just want to, and I was curious to know whether it can be done or not. So somebody asked that, can we build a conglomerate or a big diversified India group from scratch in today's time? And I think if somebody wants to take a dig at it, please, enlighten the users if we can. I think many companies are already doing it. It's just that how you define conglomerates is very different. I mean, from oil, petrochemicals to digital transformations to automobile to hospitality, there are many industries. How do we define conglomerate? Is it that you get into 10 industries, then you're called a conglomerate? I'm not sure. So, does anybody wants to take a dig at that? Whether we can, and if yes, how?
Well, I can take a dig at it, because I think this is very interesting, because we've also debated this. A conglomerate is not just an agglomeration of businesses, right? I think one of the key elements is synergies. if you have synergies across all these businesses that you have, right, synergies that actually benefit all these verticals, that's when you can call it a true conglomerate. I mean, if it is, all of these businesses are in isolation and they are just, then it is more of for lack of a better word, I would say, more of a franchisee model, right? You have franchisees of you're giving that name to saying that this is a Reliance industry, but actually you're not, you're not leveraging the power of it. So I think synergy is very important across verticals, whatever business verticals you have. If you can identify synergies, and if these synergies can be leveraged for the benefit of the entire group, that's when a true conglomerate is born, is what I believe. I mean, anybody could.
Ankit, see, adding to what Venki is saying, we are living in a world where there are no entry barriers, right? Uber, didn't have to own any taxis. And they created a million strong network of cars, right, that you could use the same app in any country. Airbnb was born and they didn't have to own any properties to make the world's biggest property chain. So the whole concept of barriers has been absolutely been blasted away by new age economies. So when you do not have barriers, and if you have a superior product that you can give to the customer, there is no one stopping you, right? And the more superior products you make in many different industries, verticals, and if there are synergies, I think you're a conglomerate, right? And if what else is the other attribute of a conglomerate? If there is a vertical which is generating cash that you can use to invest, disrupt in some other sector, right? That's what is another attribute of a conglomerate, right? So I think is very much possible. So you have no entry barriers. Financing is available. Even in COVID times, the good startups continue to attract a lot of capital, right? So there is no dearth of capital. There are no entry barriers. So I do not actually see why it should not be possible to start a conglomerate from scratch today. Absolutely possible.
Sure.
I couldn't agree more, Vish. It doesn't take time to reach the customer in today's world. You can build up a world-class app, provide the best user experience, use the latest technology in order to reach the customer through a digital channel without having to mass advertise. You can take your a positive word of mouth from the customer, serve the customer well, and that is it. You've formed a world-class business, like you mentioned, Uber. And what then prevents the same thought of entering into multiple categories? So that's what I'd like to add.
Sure. And Amit, on that, I mean, Vishwa also mentioned the characteristics of this industry. I have one question on how are you seeing the current scenario, the COVID and all, changing those characteristics for maybe some of your businesses or overall or so. So maybe if Amit, you can start, and I'll come to Vishnu with this thought.
Definitely. See, customer behavior has changed. So we would also have to realign our businesses at breakneck speed. Otherwise, we stand to be disrupted by someone else. So think about it. I would have never imagined I would be taking a haircut at home. I mean, you can't go without a haircut for 3 months, right? But then you are not going to the same salon that you were going to earlier. You have to think of something else. Now, this is a very simple example, and thankfully we are not in that industry. But think about automobiles. So what has happened is there is a certain inhibition, and different cities in India remain at different stages, and that is true for the world at large also. We have businesses in 70 plus countries for automobiles. But one of our strategies for the automotive business has been, and some of you would have seen that campaign called No Half Measures. So what we are doing is we are taking two channels, the traditional channel of physical selling, which is represented by our dealers at our automotive dealerships, making sure the customers and the employees are protected by taking all the precautions that are available. Also, we have expanded the online channel to cover all phases of the customer journey. So right from the consideration phase, or the awareness phase till the post-purchase phase is what I'm offering on a single digital platform. And that's just automotive I'm talking about. What our group strategy has been is three-pronged. It is walk, run, and fly. Walk being where we conserve what we have today for tomorrow till this entire pandemic settles down. Run is where we will be using some of the protection that we did, and our core businesses will be our focus. And fly will be where we will be taking all these businesses into territories of hyper growth. And that has been the kind of promise that our leadership, or the strategy that our leadership has defined, especially in a time like that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Vishnu, your thoughts?
Sure, Ankit. So I think this COVID situation has kind of forced or accelerated digital transformation more than anything else, I feel. And TCS is kind of at the heart of it to help our customers achieve that as fast as possible, right? So TCS, for example, works with thousands of customers across the globe, and some of the key services, like for example, your healthcare providers, your banks, your insurance services. There are very key services which, at the end of the day, are run and maintained by TCS for large customers, right? So one of the key things we had to do when this pandemic hit out of nowhere was to make sure that there was no disruption to these services, right? Because if you imagine these services also being inaccessible for the customers who really need them, you can imagine the kind of havoc that would create, right? So TCS as an organization, the immediate focus in the first couple of months or so was to ensure zero disruption to our customers' organizations. And I think the TCS as an organization moved extremely fast in making that happen, right? Because if your customer systems are down for a single day, it could create an immense amount of trouble for the end customers. So the initial focus was on that. Initial struggle of stabilization. Now we are more kind of going to our customers with how can they really accelerate their digital transformation plans, right? How do they need to relook at their workforce and the activities that their workforce do, considering that we are going to be operating in this new normal sort of a situation from now on, right? How can they bring in new age technologies like automation and AI into their operations as much as possible, so that you alleviate the work of alleviate the part of boring and repetitive tasks from your employees and really utilize them work, right? So I think it's for us as TCS, it's we look at it as an opportunity as well to really help our customers accelerate on their transformation journey. And of course, the initiatives that the Tata Group has been taking. We've already been contributing to the disaster relief fund at a nationwide level, and I think again the employee focus comes in. Let's say, for example, for TCS, every single employee has been reached out by the HR organization and mental wellness on a periodic basis to see how they're doing, and offer the required support as needed. So I think at the organization level, which is at TCS, and also at the group level, there have been multiple initiatives to address the COVID situation, and also to see as a business how can we help our customers during this time to create value on both sides.
Awesome. All right. Before getting on to the other aspect of the discussion, which is the student, let's say, profiles, placements, and all, I have this interesting question, and I thought I'll just push it onto the screen, which says that earlier, Vishwa, when you were talking about these Uber, Airbnb, Alibaba, right? So the question is that they have been surviving without inventory, but in the recent crisis has shown that the business are built more on tangible assets. Personally, I believe that statement may not be true, only because it is dependent on the business model and how you're surviving. I mean, there are people, let's say Swiggy, Zomato, and e-commerce. They're flourishing now, right? And they also, I mean, Swiggy and all also don't have an inventory person. Correct. They basically do the pick up and drop service. So I think it's more to do with the business that you're in. The situation like this may happen at any point in time. More diversified groups stand a chance to gain, because I mean, one business may not be doing well, the other may be doing really, really well. So you need to safeguard yourselves. And what we have seen earlier is that your business fundamentals needs to be strong enough, and you need to have cash in your hand to sustain those things, just like a personal finance as well. Any thoughts by anybody on this particular question? Venki, you're on mute.
I think, I think one thing that its converse is also true, right? I mean, this COVID situation, if you take the COVID situation, even industries with tangible assets have been hit bad. I mean, for us, for example, if you take our fuel business, right, fuel business, I mean, with no cars on the road, what do you expect? I mean, it's going to get hit, right? You have all the assets in the world, and you're still, and even the petrochemical business per se, large thing. So what we have, and it's, you are right, you're spot on when you said that it depends on the business model, and more importantly, how agile and quickly you can pivot, right? How agile you are and quickly you can pivot your strategy to address that. So I'll just give this an example. We actually had a 80-20 mix to domestic and foreign, exports and domestic sales for our petrochemicals. We actually anticipated this happening, right? And then as soon as the lockdowns happened and everything shut down, we quickly pivoted that strategy to we reversed it 2080. So the impact was minimized, right? The impact of the whole domestic situation affecting our sales and our revenues was mitigated to an extent. Of course, it's not completely, we are not untouched by the whole thing, obviously. But I think what is more important is that irrespective of whether you are a business with tangible assets or not, at the crux of it, you need to have a strong business model and an agile business model. You should be flexible enough to work with and roll with the punches and then stand up again. That's what's important, is what I believe.
Sure.
Jatin, very interesting question, Jatin. I'll just quickly give you an example, right? This has got nothing to do with tangible assets. Okay, let's compare Uber with Hertz, right? It's a US taxi company which actually owned taxis, right? Uber didn't own the fleet, Hertz owned the fleet, and Hertz filed for bankruptcy, right? Let's take the example of Airbnb versus, let's say, some chain which actually owns hotels, right? They'll be in far more difficult a situation. I mean, Jishnu will be able to throw light on that, right? Today, when the hospitality sector is in such dire strait, I mean, Airbnb, all it has to do is probably had to refund some of the bookings that were done during the initial course of pandemic. But otherwise, beyond that, they do not have a liability. But when you have, let's say, you own properties all across the world, and when there's no one traveling, right? I mean, there's a huge capital that you have got stuck there. So this is about which sectors were affected, which is the taxis and all, because out of safety people are not traveling, and hence those are the sectors that are affected. They have got nothing to do with whether they own tangible assets or not. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on to the next part of the discussion, where let's talk about the student. I think what relates to students directly. So one is about the profiles. All four of you basically go and give general management profiles, which is leadership programs or so. And each one of you can take about a couple of minutes, and I'll go one by one. The one aspect that you can sort of throw to the users is how general management profiles are different, better than the specific profiles, if at all. When I say specific profiles, it's operations, marketing, sales, where they are actually doing one thing at a time. And the second is that because you have a whole leadership program, what kind of in your, and that will be company specific. In your company, how do you take them and nurture them as a management trainee in that particular program, just to ensure that they are put up for success? So we can start with you, Vishwa, for Aditya Birla Group, and then we'll move on.
So, Ankit, the Aditya Birla Group Leadership Program, ABGLP as we call it, is a flagship program, one which has very, very high visibility across all the group companies, right? So when you say that you're ABGLP and you've been with some other group company, and when you go to a group company, there is to start with, you have a certain equity, right? And I think that's the first advantage that all the group management programs bring into the whole thing, and that they've been designed for that. They've been designed to have a cadre that whenever required has access to a very high quality leadership pool to pull from, right? That's first. Second, something that we do in Aditya Birla Group, in the first year we make every new joinee go through 3 to 4 different group companies and different functions, right? For example, in my first year, I did a sales stint with Idea Cellular in Bihar and Jharkhand Circle. I did a marketing stint with Birla Sun Life Insurance in Gujarat. I did an operations stint with More Retail Limited, right? 3 different group companies, 3 different functions, 3 different geographies, which gave me an opportunity to understand what are my strengths, where am I best, suited to excel. And then I picked my, career choice accordingly. I was so excited by retail in my stint then that I stuck to retail, right? And, I was out of my 10 years, I was there with 6 years with the food and grocery retail, and then now 4 years with fashion retail, right? So, and we have enough examples of management trainees having made it all the way till the CEO positions. We have enough examples within the group of people having moved across very diverse sectors, like from cement to financial services, from managing fashion to going and managing a manufacturing unit. So all examples are there, and that's, I think, the true general management leadership program that is truly there within Aditya Birla Group.
Okay. And also, Vishwa, what is the general duration of this program, just for the interest of the students? Is there a standard duration of these stints, or it is up to you how you progress in
it's
those
4
stints?
months. It's 4 months each, 3 stints now for 1 year. The first year you do 3 stints of 4 months each. After which, there is a discussion with you, and how you want to go about, and which role you want to take in which company you want to be in, and then accordingly you are put there, and then you go about. I have done 4 stints now after my first year in the group in 10 years, 3 years, some 2 years. So has been a very, very enriching journey. And I have all my colleagues who have shifted from services to manufacturing to services, all permutation combinations. I could take example of Mr. Vishak Kumar, who is the CEO of Madura Fashion Limited today. He joined from IIM Bangalore, in '95, right? And then we became CEO in 2016, 21 years, right, with the group. So, and he did stints with different functions, different brands, and went all the way up to there. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me go to TAS now. Vishnu, how does a journey look like for a TAS manager?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so I'll go back 6 years and kind of recollect what it was for me, like when I joined. The entire batch, we initially, for the first couple of weeks, there are like classroom sessions and interactions where we get to meet with senior leaders and some grooming sessions on on the different Tata Group companies and what we can expect going forward. Post that is probably one of my fondest memories of all time. It's called Bharat Darshan. It's where the entire batch is taken to visit different Tata Group facilities across the country. So we got to visit during that time. We went to the salt pans, which are run by Tata Chemicals in Gujarat. We visited our iron ore mining facilities in West Bokaro. We were in Titan and Tata Motors production manufacturing facilities in the respective locations, Bangalore and Pune. And in each of these locations, what happens is you're given the chance to interact with the leadership there, and also given a chance to understand how the day-to-day operations happens, right? So it really gives you a flavor of a conglomerate, right? The different sort of businesses that they're in, and you're seeing all of this within a span of a couple of weeks. So it's a very concentrated sort of an experience, which really brings a lot of appreciation into what the group does. And post that, you are given the first year stint. So we have 4 stints in the first year. One of them being a compulsory community stint with Tata Trusts, another 3 business stints from different areas as well. So, for example, my first stint was a new product development stint with Tata Communications. Then I was at a market entry strategy for Tata Sky. Then I did a group strategy sort of a project for Tata Sons. And then I was at Tata Trusts, where I had to find markets for bamboo products, in different parts of the country. And post this, you join one company on a full-time basis. And for me, again, one of my short projects turned into my first full-time project as well. So I joined Tata Sky as a content manager there. And so the first year kind of gives you a full, well-rounded understanding of the group, the different sort of roles that align with your interests. And then you're able to choose, and go and explore one role as a full-time option. Right now, also I'll just add, and then of course later, a couple of years down the line, I got the opportunity then to move to TCS and into the current role. But I would say that the way the task program kind of nurtures the management, the leaders, are kind of threefold. The first one is there is a very well-defined training and enablement roadmap, which is a 15-year plan that is laid out for every single task manager who joins. And there are specific learning interventions which are done in different spaces within that timeline, right? So they move from initial first year is your induction and your enablement. 2 to 5 years is where you're operating in like an individual contributor capacity. 5 to 10 years is when you're leading a team, and then 10 years and plus you would be in a leadership and a management role. So there is enablement that is also aligned to these different sets. There is mentorship that is also done. So task managers are aligned with a senior mentor from a different Tata Group organization. So you can reach out to them when you have questions regarding your career and life in general, I guess. And I think the third thing is network. So, for example, I can reach out to other task managers from any other batch across the group if I need to find more information or if I need more insights regarding a particular company or a role or a geography, right, or an industry sector. So it helps in quite a lot of ways. So I can reach out to somebody, let's say a peer of mine who works in Titan, and understand what the FMCG sector is like, gather key insights, and talk to somebody else in Tata Capital and understand, what the capital markets are like and so on. So I think all of these put together, I would say the training enablements, the mentorship, and the network together is what really then builds up a task manager's career over time.
Nice. Vishnu, for the training enablements, right? You mentioned that after a few years, let's say 3 to 4 years, you basically first is individual role, then team based, and then middle management or so. Are you also, is it in different segments, different industries, different companies, or you can actually pick one company and move from there on?
Yeah, it's pretty much up to the individual. So there are cases where task managers have joined one organization and have stayed with that organization throughout their career. And there are, of course, a lot of examples of task managers moving between industries and exploring different options. So it's completely up to the person themselves. There is no mandate that you need to stick or you need to stay or move. It's up to you.
Sure. Before I move on to Venki, there is one question from Costa which says that can anybody join TAS laterally? I mean, in terms of outside of
TAS,
campus.
So TAS recruits in 2 routes. One is, of course, from the campus. The other one is called in-house TAS. That's for Tata Group employees who've been with the group for more than 2 years. And these are the only 2 routes that TAS currently recruits through.
Okay, all right. Let's go to Venki.
Yeah, thank you, Ankit. So let me talk about the Reliance Emerging Leaders Program, and that's the name we have. It's called the RELP, RELP, and it's truly an emerging leader program, because when we hire for this program from exclusively from campuses, we look at potential leaders of Reliance in the future, and that's the whole goal, right? We are picking people who we believe would have the energy and the drive and the passion to become future leaders of Reliance. That is one of the key criteria. Of course, we have 4 tracks: HR, finance, operations, and general management. And if you ask me, general management by far the most exciting track, because it gives you a wide array of options, right? You can get into sales, marketing, a lot of spaces and across the group, right? All the businesses that we have, it could be in geo, retail, hydrocarbon. It all depends on where the projects are and what is available. That's the opportunity you take. And we have a 1-year rel stint, which is very focused, where it's split into 2 stints, 6 months each. There are 2 projects that rel joinees are given to lead. Actually, that's the interesting part, because they are actually given a independent mandate and given the necessary support, of course, to execute those projects. But it is their entry into, or their window into how how the conglomerate operates, how that particular business operates. And they are given a mandate. There are actually 3 reviews that happen during the course of the 6 months. There's the initial review, a midpoint, and a final review. And even before these stints begin, though, what is done is that there's an immersion program which runs up to almost a month, where they are trained in various. They are given a complete understanding of what Reliance does. They are actually taken to some site visits, and they are taken to some of our manufacturing facilities, and they are basically exposed to what the business is all about. And right through this 1 year, they are also exposed to senior leaders on a regular basis through lunch with leaders and coffee table sessions, one-on-one coffee table sessions, and also internal panel discussions. We have a lot of those panel discussions that happen with leaders coming in and interacting, very senior leaders coming in and interacting with the REL batch. All through this, it's doing 2 things for them. One, they're getting a hands-on experience of what it means to work within a Reliance team. And typically these projects are all live projects. They are not made-up projects. So essentially they are working on something that Reliance is moving the counter on. And it puts them in touch with other teams, other leaders, and they get a exposure to how, Reliance values and behaviors and leadership values are actually put into action on a daily basis. After the first year, basically there are a few other sister programs for career acceleration which kick off. Like there's a IJP, which is called internal job posting. Reliance has a policy which says that any vacancy that opens up will be opened up internally. Any leadership vacancy that opens up will be first opened up internally before you go out and hire laterally from outside. So essentially, that's an opportunity for REL leaders to put up their hands and say, I'm interested in this particular role, and make that leap. There's also a career acceleration program, which is sort of the selection criteria and all that sort of mimic, I think, PAS to an extent. It's very, very choosy, very selective. Almost on an annual basis, we have maybe around 2,000 or 3,000 people in the organization that apply for CAP. And only a batch of around 30 or 40 is selected for that year. So I myself am a CAP batch graduate from 2016, and a career acceleration program basically is where you are handpicked to be a future leader, and a path is laid out for you, and the assignments and projects and all that are lined up. There's a huge emphasis on your individual development plan. There are mentors assigned, and mentors actually work on you with your IDP, your individual development plans, and help you take the next level. And a lot of success stories have come through a REL CAP combination, and even through REL, people have progressed within our organization. So that's the crux of it. I also want to I was just going through the live comments, and I recognize this. I saw one comment which was about, if I have a technical background, will I be fit for a general management role? Now, that's a very interesting thing, because yes and no, in the sense that it does not have anything to do with technical skills or anything. If you are an expert at technology, that does not disqualify you or qualify you for a general management position. Like I said earlier, we clearly look for an entrepreneurial spirit. Do you have it in you to actually see yourself as a business leader running that business, and do you have those inherent abilities to, that passion, that drive to take on challenges proactively? If that is what you have, then yes, then you're a fit candidate for the general management track in the REL program. That's the question that is more pertinent, is what I believe.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Venki, since you answered that question, there were two others I was thinking of clubbing it. So one
Sure.
is there differentiation between freshers and work-ex when you're actually looking out for general management roles? And is there an age bar?
Well, there is no age bar. There is, okay, here's the interesting part. When we hire from the premier management institutes for the REL program, we get a mix. I mean, some people are 2 years of experience, some people are really freshers, some are probably more experienced. So all of that is not a factor into how we get into the REL program. However, I would like to say that we have an upper limit, upper cap. I mean, if you are already about 5 or 6 years of experience, then REL is not for you probably, because REL still is an entry level leadership program, and it is designed for people with maybe 2 to 4 years of experience, and who are coming through these schools and that's where we are looking to get that talent young, right? And because it helps us in molding it also to the Reliance way of working and the Reliance culture, and there's a little less unlearning to do when you come from that profile. That is one aspect. What was the second question that you clubbed, Ankit?
No, I mean, so one was for the age and the other was freshers work versus work-ex.
Yeah, okay, the differentiation. Okay, once you are into a REL program and then it's all role based. There's no differentiation. It's not that a work-ex will get a better role than a fresher or anything like that, if that's the question. So it's
one aspect is that. The other aspect is, while you're recruiting, is there a preference given to a work-ex guy or a fresher, or both are at the same level while you're recruiting?
For us, they're at the same level. If it comes to a tie, right? I mean, if you have one position to offer and there are two people tied for it, and then all these other considerations pop in, right? Okay, let's look at what this person has worked in and hasn't had experience. Maybe that props in. But if this fresher is really really passionate and driven, those considerations won't even come to the fore at all. That much I can say. I mean, I've been on for the last 3 years. I've been on this hiring this thing for REL, and I can speak from personal experience. I've never looked at a candidate based on their work-ex or whether they are a fresher. It comes down to how they approach the interview, how they respond to our queries, how they performed in the psychometric test, and all those factors. But other than that, nothing else.
Okay, Amit, before I come, yeah.
Yeah, so just adding, I think, at least at Aditya Birla Group, we have a very, very rigorous 2-day process with multiple different formats of, where you could contribute and all that. One of the important factors of, having a rigorous process is to remove all these biases, right? Of age, of gender, of, work pressure, all of it is removed. And you're seen by different panels, not the same person throughout, 2 days, right? So tests your, determination, longevity, energy levels, everything, right? I think those things matter, which have no bearing to your age, gender, work or any other. So absolutely no concerns on any of those.
Sure. I mean, before I come to you, I would want Jishnu to also give his thoughts on these elements for the task program, and then you can take them all together. Jishnu, what about you? Work-ex, freshers, age, and technical backgrounds?
Sure, Ankit. So there is no particular consideration given to. I mean, let's say there is no favorable treatment given to freshers versus experienced candidates when it comes to the task process. I think there are some basic criteria, like what Venki mentioned. It is expected to be an early stage program, right, where managers come in young and then they are really taken through that journey of 10 to 15 years and growth. And therefore, there is a condition that your work-ex pre-TAS should not be more than 6 years. That's the cap that they have set, and I understand there are also some age limitations, but since I've been away since been 6 years, I'm not exactly sure as to what that age cutoff is, but it is there. And I would say experience of 6 years max is what is also looked at. But otherwise, there is no differentiation between the candidates on any other factors when it comes to recruitment into TAS. And I think, Ankit, if I can just take 1 minute, there was one question which might have been left unanswered. There was this difference between general management and other specific functions, and why general management is better, if at all. So I would not really go to the extent of saying that general management is better than any particular functional sort of a role within TAS. The way that it's anyways looked at is that you grow through a functional role in the initial years of your career, right? So it's not as if you join as a general manager, or and then you're completely cut off from all the different specific functions within the organization. So, like for example, I'm doing a business development, which is a sales role right now. I have colleagues doing pure marketing roles, pure finance roles, pure HR roles as well. And so you grow through this, and then you advance in your career into a general management role where you have multiple, where you have responsibility on multiple different sort of functions and areas. So I would not really say that they are completely separate from each other and one is better than the other. I think from a TAS point of view, it's an evolution. So you do focus on a function and get functional expertise, and then you advance into being into being a manager for a larger portfolio.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Ankit. So also, while answering your question, I've seen a couple of queries from the audience. Let me also answer it while I'm on the way.
Sure.
So Rahul says that are there any programs or training workshops for undergraduate students as well? Before I begin explaining the group management cadre, we do have a Campus Connect where we have some kind of knowledge exchange sessions in order to catch you young and to identify what are your curiosity levels when it comes to the group businesses and the industry. We have a major event called the Campus War Room, Mahindra War Room, which is an international event where we present a lot of case studies pertaining to our current business problems and opportunity areas. And we encourage teams of first year and second year students to solve them. And the top teams get to present directly to Mahindra Group Executive Board. And it is a televised event. And having myself participated in events like these, it also offers you an opportunity to know how the company works and also to streamline your choices and preferences and your likings for a particular company that you're going to apply. What it also helps is, in case you're preparing or you have done an internship with us earlier, it helps you in the entire PPI, PPO process because you have already had a flavor in order to make your decision. So coming to the group management cadre, which is when we go to campuses and we hire people. So it begins with a 1 month induction plan. I think one of my co-panelists also mentioned about 1 month immersion plan. It is quite similar, but we have 4 modules. The first module in that is a corporate interaction, where all the people who join us in that batch of GMC get to interact with the managing director and all the CEOs of all businesses. Then the second step is a small training module where you are informed about the company, and it's more like a classroom session. The third part is what we call the Mahindra experience. Around a week or so is when all the participants now get to see on the field across India as to what are the various companies doing, what the various businesses are, what the various Mahindra businesses are, and have a kind of a reconciliation as to what they heard from the CEOs when they spoke to them initially. The fourth and a very interesting part is a rural program, which is a 15-day program, because a lot of our businesses serve rural customers. So that involves some kind of projects in order to help people who are our countrymen and potential customers, and to make a difference. Then after that month is over, the next 1 year consists of 4 assignments or 4 tracks of 3 months each. So it could be a sales stint, it could be another functional stint. There is an international stint. There's a question by Shivam also, who asked, is there an opportunity to work in foreign countries? So yes, this program provides you an international stint initially. And the fourth stint is then a strategy stint. So after you are all well rounded up, after that 1 year is complete, for the next 5 odd years, we see you into 2 or 3 roles, which may be of the same function, across multiple industries or across different functions. So in fact, I started in business development sales of automobiles, which was an international role. Then I moved on to the group strategy office, where I did a major project which involved launching India's first blockchain-based supply chain finance platform, which went on for a couple of years. And now I am back implementing artificial intelligence in supply chain for Mahindra's core automotive business. There have been other colleagues. Udit is my batchmate, who started as an HR. He's from XLRI. In a corporate function, moved to a business development role in China because we had a JV, a tractor JV, led business development there for a couple of years. And his latest stint is heading the Java brand, which some of you might be familiar with, which was our entry into high-performing motorcycles. So in essence, there are 3 main things that you get out of the GMC program. You get a lot of opportunities and career management and trainings. You get a senior leadership connect and mentorship also. The third major thing is you get various roles through a well-established rotation policy. So in those 5-6 years, you can be seen as a true leader who can head multiple businesses in the group.
Okay. Amit, while you're on that, the other aspect we may want to dive into is how do you select candidates? So, I mean, what is that specific skill sets? I mean, they can be generic as well, but the more important question is, what is it that you're looking in a candidate while you're taking them through the interview process? And that might be different for all of you, so I'll come one by one to each one of you.
Yeah. So yes, we do look at skills and aptitude like everyone does. Another very important thing about the group is our belief in the RISE philosophy, which basically says that accept no limits and challenges, think differently, and other such values which are part of the value system. So we look at that value fit also. Third, we also look at if you have work experience. So what is the depth that you have in your work experience, what you have done in the past, and is that very useful in a role like this? Or if you do not have work experience, what is your conceptual clarity or your thought process, which will help you to excel in line with your existing interest levels? So in case there is a role that you are looking at, which could be either be a functional role or to a specific industry, we take the young leaders' preferences into consideration and try to have a best fit in line with our career management practices.
Awesome. Thanks, Amit. What about Aditya Birla Group, Vishwa? Any specific skill sets?
So we are looking for someone who embodies our group's value system. Okay? And on top of our value system is integrity. It's a very, very important trait for all future leaders. It has to start with it. Every candidate has to be very, very high on it. And then we are looking at someone with a lot of passion, high on energy, and something that any field that they are excited about, that they are probably in the top 5% in that group. Then someone who can, work teams, who can work with other people, take together, do a collective vision forward, seamlessness and commitment, the other two values of our group. So, and last, of course, is speed as a value. Now, speed as a value is often, taken for someone who is actually fast turnaround time. But how we interpret speed is someone, who has the ability to, read the future, prepare the organization for the future, so that we rise the, we are able to tide, as the most successful among the bunch which is high values, which is integrity, passion, commitment, and seamlessness, and speed. We're looking for these five, traits in all the candidates that we are looking to hire. Our technical, here to identify traits. Anyone with these five traits, and I think it is important, generally speaking, also, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the group here for this, that every candidate look for an organization where their individual value system and the organization's value system is in complete sync. Right? That's the most beautiful relationship and a long-term relationship that any future leader can get into. A lot of times, these are very good in their own merit, but somewhere there is a gap in the value system of the individual and the organization. I think that's where there is a friction. I think to all the youngsters here, my number one, while they are looking forward to opportunities, should be to evaluate their own personal value systems and the value systems of the organization, and definitely look for those where there is a very, very high overlap.
Okay. All right. Venki, I would come to you next for the same question.
Sure. So pretty much resonates with what Amit and Vishwa and everybody has been saying about. So those are common traits. I think what additionally I want to add here is that two things. One is that we have, of course, Reliance values and behaviors which form the core of the whole selection process. So integrity, ownership mindset, customer orientation, relationship building, right? All of these are very crucial. The ability to see. In addition to that, we also look for a strong bias for action. We want someone who can visualize, have a vision, have ambition, but also have a strong bias for action. So typically, we are looking for people who have not who have made best use of their education up to that point. Right? When I say that, people who are actually, it's a great opportunity because people who are on the show right now who are waiting to get into an MBA. An MBA, I believe, MBA education is not just about attending classes and giving your exams and assignments. I think if you have already, when you come to us for the hiring, if you have already executed some projects of your own, have shown initiative in doing that and maybe addressing some social causes or even just other projects of interest, that sets you apart, and that's also a key factor that goes into the selection. We also apply, the second point I want to mention is that we apply this JAR framework for evaluating the candidate. So we look at these 4 parameters: judgment, achievement, relationship building, and learning agility. So all of these factors that I mentioned, they're assessed on these 4 aspects, right? So how good is your judgment, right? And no one can teach you that, right? It's sort of you learn that through experience and doing things. Achievement, how biased are you towards setting goals and actually going out and achieving them? Relationship building, very crucial for us because we work in a very, very diverse environment, and candidates who show a bias for good relationship building and leveraging that relationship, those kind of traits are very important. Be able to work well with others, well within teams. Leading is sometimes misconstrued as being on top of this isolated mountain and leading your troops and all that. It is not that. It is more about working with the team, working on the ground in the trenches, and that sort of behavior is also very important for us. And finally, learning agility. How quickly are you able to pivot? Because and you look at this COVID situation, the new normal coming up. I mean, we have so many things getting thrown at us. if we don't have agile thinking leaders and people with good learning agility, we would be in a lot of trouble. So learning agility is also another key aspect that we look at, and that's basically the crux of the selection process. So it's very scientific in a sense, but it's also very it's driven by how the candidate can actually fit on these parameters, can put their best foot forward and showcase their characteristics and traits and abilities along these parameters. So that's the thing.
Sure. Coming to you, Vishnu, for TAS, and in addition to this, if we can also tell them that during the TAS process, is there any preference given to the previous Tata employees? But that's a question I'm sure that is valid for the all as well, but because you'll be answering, just keep that perspective as well.
Sure, Ankit, I'll try and address that at the end. So, and what is looked for in the task program, maybe I'll try and attempt to answer it through the different stages of the task recruitment process. There are 4 stages. The first one is where you fill out a very descriptive form which tries to understand how well-rounded you are as a candidate and tries to understand your worldview and how you look at things. And once this becomes the foundation for the first shortlist, and then you're called into a chairman's group discussion. So it's only for TAS have I sat through a process like that where 8 people come together in a room, and there are 8 different topics of group discussion. And in each topic, one person becomes the moderator and everybody else is a participant. And you're evaluated for your performance for all the 8 group discussions, and this takes almost I think just over an hour or so. So each topic is about 8 minutes or 10 minutes or so. In this, what is really looked at is your ability to communicate, your ability to collaborate, your ability to empathize. It is not what I've understood from my experience is that like let's say in a marketing group discussion, what is not looked at is your ability to dominate or speak over somebody else, but really your ability to lead a group and to come to a common consensus and really summarize the group's understanding in a good way, and to effectively make use of those 8 minutes that's given for your topic, and also contribute well to all the other topics where you're just a participant. So communication, empathy, collaboration all become very important traits that are evaluated in that section. Once you clear that, you go into a presentation section where you talk about in detail your experience from either your summer internship or your past work experience. Here, what is looked at is your ability to think in a structured manner, be able to put across your thoughts in a very concise manner and communicate it to an audience. So that's looking at your business acumen. How good are you able to bring business concept onto the fray and communicate it effectively. And of course, the last is the interview, which is where the alignment of your personality, your interests to the group and its interests and its own personality traits are kind of looked at, and then a match is found, right? So the group would typically look at people who are grounded, who are humble, who have a stable in a well-rounded worldview, and things like that. And of course, the list goes on. But I would say that these are the 4 key stages in the task process, and there are specific things that are being evaluated in each of the steps, and maybe that understanding helps. Coming to the other question, Ankit, on whether pre-MBA Tata experience is evaluated.
That's correct.
My understanding is it is not so if you have a pre-MBA Tata experience, you come into an MBA program and you sit for a task program, you are treated as any other candidate, and there is no difference. Neither is that candidate considered for in-house, right? In-house is only for those employees who've been with the Tata Group and is still with the Tata Group. So it's a program that only opens up inside the Tata Group companies, and it's for existing employees to participate, right? So I hope that clarifies the topic.
Sure. Just in the interest of the users, because I see many questions or so, some of them we are not taking in this discussion because we have on session 4 lined up where we have HRs from different industries, so conglomerates, e-commerce, finance, where they will be asking your question specific to which colleges are they open to, why those colleges, and all of that. In the interest of time, since we have about last 6-7 minutes left, uh, we all talked about different roles, general management, marketing specific, different industries. Now, at this point in time, everybody they don't know as to which role is best suited for them. They don't know which industry is best suited for them. So, what would be your advice as to how they get to know what options exist? In those options, which is the one that should be put in their consideration set, and how to move ahead. So, essentially, in next 2 months, 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, how they should be going through their whole MBA life. I'll start with you, Vishwa, because this is something that we were discussing earlier as well, and then I'll move on to each one of you.
Okay, so in addition to what I said earlier, which is, try to look for a very high overlap with your personal value system and the organization value system. The other, tip that I usually give when I get this question is, try to see what lifestyle you want to lead, and try to find a role that has high overlap with that kind of lifestyle, right? For example, I have, if you're someone who wants to run, let's say, 10 kilometers every day, then I would suggest that consulting might be a very wrong career option, right? Because you mostly take flights every day in and day night, right? So, I mean, it makes no sense, right? I mean, you'll get into and you'll get frustrated, and you might be very very good at it, but it's not something you'll be excited to it. So I think it's very important that first realization that life and work have to exist together. So whatever is that that you have apart from work that you do in your life and that you want to continue, and I think it's important to so the question that you should be asking whenever you meet someone is, tell me your day in life, right? What you do, like what your time your day starts, what you do. If you're someone who likes meeting a lot of people, don't take corporate roles, take field roles, right? If you're someone who would not want to be in the field roles, no problem. I think so. The first thing that I would say is try and understand what's the lifestyle you want, and then please map all the roles. And I have seen that a role that comes closest to the lifestyle that you want, you'll be at very at peace working at it, and you'll really excel because there's nothing you're compromising for to excel at work, right? That's the worst trade-off to do, to excel at work. There's something else you want to compromise. I think you should not do that. So those two tips is what I would give. And yeah, a little bit of exposure will always come through the first year in all the group companies. They have stints. They have in any typical batch, let's say there are about 30-40 people. So you might not be in a stint, but your friend might be in some other stint, and you'll usually get together, understand what they're doing, what kind of role it entails. Does it entail a field work, line role, staff role, right? And I think eventually collective information helps you make a decision. But I think I'll go back to the first 2 points. Please, while choosing an organization, look for a very high degree of value system overlap. And in that organization, while choosing for a role, please do look at the lifestyle that you want to lead and what lifestyle certain function or a role is going to give you. And I think you'll really excel at it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Usha. Coming to you, Amit. Amit, also, if you while you're answering, you also stress on how do you identify that, because the major question will also be that I mean, what kind of a role entails what kind of a lifestyle.
Okay, I'll take both of them. Very interesting views by Vish. So I'll not repeat it. I'll just add something. So I think you should ask yourself what excites you. What are you passionate about? So is it like being in a FMCG company, or is it being in a particular industry, or maybe setting up a particular business? Things like that, which like keep you up at night sometimes. So personally, for me, if you ask me, I am a software engineer by background. So I like technology and I've been following technology. But then I also wanted to do business development. What I'm doing right now is a role which did not exist in the organization. It is a confluence of applying the right emerging technology to a new business model. Is basically what digital transformation is. Similarly, you should find your feet. And how to do that is by being very inquisitive, and now I'm moving to the second part of the question, by doing your research thoroughly. So make most of what you do in the B school. There are a lot of case studies, there are a lot of guest lectures from the industry. People come and give GAN for free in B schools, maybe to build their brand, maybe because they are your alums. Soak a lot of it. Secondly, uh, in addition to the various competitions and your professors, there is a very nice tool called LinkedIn, which a lot of you can use in order to network, build connections. I'm sure some of you have logged in there also. Do a lot of research on LinkedIn about the kind of roles people are doing. Have a look at the job opportunities also available and align yourself with what the industry is demanding. If you are lucky, you are able to make connections. Maybe you get mentors also. Those could be your previous alums. Reach out, make the most of these 2 years, make connections through summer internships. As which said, your batchmates will help you a lot, your seniors will help you a lot, because this is a very exciting time, and make the most of it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amit. Let me go to Vishnu and then to Venki.
Sure, Ankit. So one thing I'd like to say is that one of your questions was, I think, how to identify right career opportunities and how should they go about the search for it and things like that. I think the crowd here, or every single participant here, is they're here listening to us, and that kind of proves the point that they are really already very ambitious and very inquisitive, and they know where to look for information and things like that. And I would like to first kind of congratulate all of them for being so ambitious. I wasn't, I can say, at this age, I wasn't as focused about my career, but I think they're already leaps and bounds ahead. And I'm sure what I would like to say is, when you join the B school, it might really feel like a rat race, and it would be really hectic. But what from my experience, what I can say is that you really need to kind of slow yourself down and really focus on picking up new skills and learning new things, and don't get caught in the rat race. And I wish there was somebody who had told me this so that I could have been slowed down and really focused on things that needed to be done. But what I would say is, look at skills that would be valuable going forward. With the whole advent of AI and automation and things like that, I think the nature of work is changing from what people were doing a few years back to what will be expected going forward. So keep that in mind, and really invest your time in picking up new skills and learning as much as possible during your these school days. And I think it kind of reminds me of the Steve Jobs speech, right, where he says, looking back, all the dots connect. And that really is true. So focus and spend your 2 years on picking up the right skills and learning as much as possible, and your career will go in directions that you can never even imagine at this point of time, right? So I mean, all the best to all the participants here.
Thanks, Vishnu. Venki?
Yeah, thanks, Sankit. So I have a slightly interesting take on this, because this question actually is a trick question. It's an impossible question. At the beginning of your career, it is absolutely almost near to impossible to figure out what you want and what's going to really bake your cake, so to say. But I think there were some very important, very pertinent points made. I love the point that Vishwa made about I think essentially what he said was doing what you love and loving what you do, right? There's a Japanese concept called ikigai. If you don't know it, I mean, go ahead and read about it. Ikigai typically comes through after a lot of experimentation. So my suggestion, and to everyone on this show here, all the participants, my advice to you is that it is okay to be confused. It's completely, perfectly normal and okay to be confused. In fact, I think the more confused people are at an advantage, because they will eventually try out different things, right? And eventually hit ikigai, that sweet spot with the confluence of what you love and what you are doing. Now, interestingly, I mean, we also have an adage in Reliance, especially on the digital side of things, where we say fail early, fail fast. That's very counterintuitive to sort of hear that. Why would you want to fail? Right? But please be rest assured that in your career, as you begin your career journey, you will encounter failure. And there is no two ways about it. I mean, all the four of us in this, and five of us, in fact, including Ankit, I'm sure we've seen our share of failures. So failure is not something that is bad to be looked down upon. In fact, I think it's an opportunity to take a lot out of it and switch your tack, change your uh, approach to things, and that gives you as much learning as success would. In fact, more learning than any sort of success would. So my suggestion, or rather advice to everyone on this call who is beginning their career and is getting into an MBA, focus on what is important. What is important is that you have a strong bias for action. You do not worry about whether you're going to succeed or fail, but worry about whether you're going to learn something from what you're doing or not. As long as you go into this B school stint with the objective of learning, and learning doesn't just come from, like I mentioned earlier, from just classroom sessions and assignments and exams. It truly comes from a hunger to learn, and that hunger to learn is probably what's going to set you apart, even when you sort of start looking out for jobs and roles and all these things. So what you should be doing is really looking at not to, in B school, I completely agree with, I think Jishnu mentioned this. It's a rat race, and it's crazy. A B school, I mean, the professors make it impossible for you. Your colleagues make it impossible for you by excelling in things that you don't excel at. And so it quickly turns into this madness where you're trying to outdo each other. At that time, I think it's very important to take a step back and recognize, whether by doing something, what is it that you're gaining in terms of learning? Are you going to get something out of it? Proactively look out for opportunities to do things that would make you happy. Maybe if doing something for society, taking up a side project, it will be a huge burden on you. But believe me, this is the time when you can actually afford to do that. Once you get into the larger rat race, which is trying to make your way through a conglomerate and a corporate and a job and climbing the ladder, that's a whole different rat race. At that time, you'll have to set time aside to really, and remind yourself that, I have to upgrade myself, upskill myself. But this is the time where you are actually, it's dedicated for you to learn. And, it doesn't really matter which B school you're from if you follow these basic principles. B schools, of course, the education, the curriculum, and the professors, and everything makes a difference. But the main difference is from within, right? If you want to learn and you take every opportunity to learn, that's what will hold you in good stead. So that is my advice. It's and with a conglomerate, if you're coming to any of us, right, for your, if you're coming to the REL program or to the ABG or to the M&M or the TAS programs, you are looking at a conglomerate with a plethora of opportunities, a lot of opportunities to fail and then find your way. So I think that's not the question to worry about at this point in time. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I would just like to add on top of it that when we are talking about failing first, learning first, the opportunities that these competitions, the life projects, and the other things provide, you actually dive into them. Maybe after 10 unsuccessful attempts, you might become a winner of one or the other competition or so. But the learning that will happen will sort of take you places. And the example that I gave you is that we had a person. Anshu, who was there in last year's Ignite, he didn't make it to McKinsey in his summers, only because the CV wasn't that strong enough, both from the academics point of view and from the different experiences point of view. What he told me was that he tried about 20 different projects in different industries or so, and there were about 4 in which he excelled, so that he can put that on his resume. The best part was that all 4 were from different segments: one IT, one FMCG, one conglomerate, and so. And that made that cut so that in the finals he was shortlisted for McKinsey, and during his interview itself, the whole discussion was on all these points. And that, I mean, I'm not sure whether that played a role or not, but at least those discussions happened in those interviews also. And right now he's working for McKinsey. So that may happen for anybody and for any company person. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We hope they were good insights for you. The next session, which is lining up, is for e-commerce. where we have Flipkart, Amazon, maybe Myntra and Cloudtail as well. The leaders from there talking about the whole penetration increase of e-commerce, how the new age recruiters are getting into new age profiles, product management, program management, project management, how these three sound similar, but they are very, very different and they are generally offered by the new age guys. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much, Vishwa, Amit, Venki, and Vishnu. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Thanks.
Thank you, Ankit, and it was a
Thank you,
privilege
Amit.
sharing the platform with everyone. So thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
having us, Ankit.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye.
having us. All the best to all the participants. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.